I'm Sue Perez, and this is I-cord edging on crochet. It's elastic, flexible, looks great on both sides, and it's easy to make with a hook. Let's get started. With the right side of the project facing you, insert your hook into any stitch and attach the new yarn with a slip stitch. Now chain the number of loops that you want your I-cord to have. I'm making a 4-stitch I-cord, so I'm going to chain 4. Starting in the second chain from the hook, inserting your hook into the back loop of each chain, pull up a loop. Hold those loops on your hook. Now we have our original working loop and the 3 loops we just pulled up. Turn your work. We'll now be working with the wrong side facing at all times. Insert your hook into the next stitch and pull up a loop. Now, remove your hook from all of the loops. Place the rightmost loop on a stitch holder. I'm using a little bobby pin. This is just something to keep it from pulling loose. Now, starting in the new rightmost loop, we're going to make I-cord by gently pulling up a loop in that loop, pulling up a loop in the next loop. When you have 2 loops left, insert your hook into both of them, pull up 1 loop, insert your hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop. For the next row, remove your hook from the leftmost loops until you have 1 loop left, pull up a loop in that loop, pull up a loop in the next loop. When you have 2 loops left, insert your hook through both of them. Sometimes the yarn slides a little bit, nothing to worry about. Pull up a loop and insert your hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop. Each time you work those 4 loops, you're working 1 row of I-cord. Keep your tension relaxed, and this is what the back of the work should look like. You should have very loose loops on the back of your I-cord. Do not worry about those very loose loops because we'll take care of them later. There are 2 ways of dealing with spaces or corners in crochet. You can work into them, as I'm doing with this corner. As many rows of I-cord as you need. Just insert the hook into the space or the corner, pull up your last loop there. When you're ready to finish, you simply pick up the next stitch in the normal way. Here I've worked 3 rows of I-cord into the corner. Another way to deal with spaces or corners is to work around or over them. To do that, when you pick up the last 2 loops of the I-cord, instead of inserting your hook into the space or corner, work as many rows as you like over the 3 loops, or however many you happen to have on your hook. I call this detached I-cord. I'm going to work 3 rows, and then I'll reattach on the other side of the corner. And that's another method of dealing with spaces. You could also, if you liked, work 1 stitch in the corner, work 1 row detached, work another stitch in the corner. It's entirely up to you. So here I have gone around the corner without working any stitches into that space, and now I'm reattached on the other side. Here we are at the end of the round. I've just picked up the last loop in the last empty stitch. Now I'm going to put those live loops on a holder. I like to use a scrap of yarn, but you can use anything that works for you. Before we seam our I-cord, we're going to deal with all of those floppy loops on the front of the fabric. Remove the holder from that first row I-cord loop. Insert your hook up through the slip stitch where you attached the new yarn. Replace that loop on the hook and pull it through. Now, leaving that loop on the hook, we're going to start hooking up all of these loose loops. Insert your hook under the first loose loop and pull it through. Keep working in that way all the way around. I call this the afterthought column, and what we're doing is actually adding an extra column of I-cord stitches. It makes a very firm and tidy I-cord with perfect tension, and it's much easier than trying to work the perfect tension while attaching it to the crochet stitch. When hooking up the afterthought column, make sure you're picking up the proper strand of yarn. Each stitch has 2 strands of yarn coming out of it. You want the one that is connected to the side of this I-cord stitch right here. If you tug on it, you should see that stitch tighten up. That's how you know you're picking up the right strand. Also, make sure you pick up 1 strand for every row of I-cord. Here we are at the corner where we worked around the corner rather than into it. So I'm having to dig a little bit to find those loops to pull up. They're down there, if you look. I'll be back in a moment when I've finished hooking up all of my loops. The last loop of the afterthought column should be connected to your final row of I-cord loops, that rightmost loop right there. Before you start seaming, make sure that you can identify the stitches you want to attach to. This is the starting chain of our I-cord. Look for the first identifiable row of stitches, the first row of stitches that looks like the stitches that follow. To get started, insert the needle from back to front through the first empty loop. Take it off the holder. Insert the needle from right to left behind the 2 legs of the target stitch. Insert the needle back through the originating stitch from front to back this time, and that is our first duplicate stitch. Let's do the next one. I'm going to see if I can work left-handed. And I can't. Insert the needle from back to front through the live loop. Remove the holder. Insert the needle from right to left through the 2 legs of the next target stitch. Pull it close. Insert the needle back through from front to back the originating stitch. Pull the yarn through. That's 2 stitches done. Now you'll find that you have 2 live loops left and only 1 target stitch left. So we're going to treat that just as we did when we were making the I-cord. Remember how you inserted your hook into 2 loops before pulling up a loop in the next stitch? Well, we're going to insert the needle from back to front through the last 2 loops, pass it behind the 2 legs of the last target stitch, pull it through, and insert it back through the last 2 loops. A little messy there. I think I split some plies. This is what happens when I work without my glasses. But you can see that we've done a duplicate stitch seam, and at this point it's okay to adjust the stitches that you just made to match the tension of the stitches around them. And so to do that, work from right to left or from beginning to end, and you can just tighten them up or loosen them. That's our seam complete, and once you hide the ends, you'll have a hard time telling where you started and where you ended. Here's my other sample. Here's what it looks like with the ends all woven in. That's our I-cord finishing edge. Thanks for viewing. Happy crocheting and happy I-cording.